She thought humans were dangerous, until one entered the beast's nest alone. The jungle of Angzari was alive with sounds, birds with crystal wings, vines that hissed, and rivers that glowed in the dark. But the most feared sound was silence. Because silence meant the apex predator was near, and when the silence came, even the bravest warriors held their breath. From high in the trees, Talera watched. She had silver skin, long black braids, and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her people, the Urnai, had lived here for generations. They knew the jungle, respected its rules, and one rule was clear: never go near a nesting beast. It was death. But today, she saw something impossible: a human, walking toward the beast's nest, alone. Talera narrowed her eyes. She had heard of humans, violent, careless, full of fire and machines. They were new to Angzari, and most Urnai feared them. Her people said humans destroyed what they touched. She expected the beast to rip him apart. But the beast did not move. The predator was massive. Black scales, glowing eyes, claws longer than swords. It sat in a shallow pit, 3 cubs curled around its side. The human, Evan, she would learn his name later, stepped carefully. No weapons, no armor, just a bag on his back and something in his hands. Food. Talera held her breath. He placed the food slowly on a stone near the edge of the nest. The predator growled once, deep, warning, but it did not attack. The cubs sniffed the air, then crawled forward. The human didn't move. One of the cubs took the food in its mouth and dragged it back. The predator grunted again, then lowered its head. Talera's heart raced. This is not possible. No creature trusted outsiders near its young. Not even her people were allowed that close. But the beast had allowed him. She followed him after that, carefully, quietly. From tree to tree, she watched the human walk through the jungle with no fear. He stopped to clean a wounded flying beast. He shared water with a one-eyed scavenger animal. He knelt beside a dying tree, touched its bark, and placed something in the soil. Not a weapon. Seed. Talera was confused. This was not the kind of creature her people had warned her about. This was not a destroyer. This was a guardian. Later that evening, Evan made camp near a small stream. He set a light trap, gentle, not lethal, to keep wild animals away. Then he sat near the fire, eating dried fruit and something that looked like pressed roots. Talera watched him from the shadows. So many questions filled her mind. Why was he alone? Why had the predator trusted him? Why didn't he carry a weapon? Suddenly he turned his head, looked right at her. Talera froze. He had known this whole time? But he didn't move. He didn't reach for anything. He just said softly, "You're not the first to follow me." His voice was warm, not mocking, not afraid, just honest. Talera stepped back into the trees, her heart pounding. She wanted to run, but she didn't. She stayed, hidden, watching, because deep down, something was changing. She didn't see a human anymore. She saw something different, something worth understanding. And in that quiet jungle, while the stars blinked above and the predator slept peacefully in its nest, Talera began to doubt everything she had been taught about humans. She followed him and saw something she was never meant to see. Talera moved like a shadow through the jungle. She had followed hunters before, watched them from the trees, without ever being seen. But this time something was different. She was not following prey. She was following a human, and she didn't know why. The human's name she had learned from his data tag was Evan Reese. He didn't act like the stories told. He didn't chop down trees. He didn't shout or set traps for sport. He moved with care. He stopped often to touch the plants, check his map, or leave pieces of fruit for small creatures. And the jungle didn't reject him. That scared her. For 3 days, she watched. He made shelter under giant mushroom trees. He caught food only when needed, never more. And every evening, he lit a soft fire and wrote notes in a book. But on the fourth day, he changed direction. He started moving toward forbidden ground. Talira followed, confused. Then she saw it, a crashed Urnai scout ship, hidden beneath vines and broken branches. No lights, no sound. It had been missing for weeks. Her people believed it was lost, but Evan had found it. She moved closer through the canopy, her heart pounding. Evan knelt beside the shattered hatch. He pushed it open slowly. Smoke hissed out. Then he climbed inside. Talira almost called out, but she stopped herself. This human was doing something she was never meant to see. Helping her. People. Inside the wreckage, Evan found 2 injured Urnai soldiers, one unconscious, the other barely alive. Talira couldn't hear his words, but she saw his hands. He gave them water, tied wounds, lifted one onto his back and carried him out into the sunlight, then went back for the second. Talira watched, stunned. He was risking his life to save 2 strangers, 2 aliens. Her people had warned her. Humans were selfish, violent, only loyal to their own kind. But this man had gone into a broken ship, into danger, to save those he didn't even know. She followed as Evan slowly carried the soldiers toward his camp. Each step was heavy, but he never stopped. And when they reached the firelight, she heard him whisper, "You're safe now." That night, while the soldiers rested and Evan sat by the fire, wiping blood from his shirt, Talira stepped into the clearing. For the first time, she let him see her fully. Evan looked up, surprised, but calm. "You've been watching me," he said. She nodded. "And you helped them," she replied. His voice was steady. "They needed it." Talira looked at the wounded Urnai, then back at him. "I don't understand you," she said. Evan smiled, tired. "You don't have to. Just don't run." She stood there quiet, then sat across from him. Not as a spy, not as a stranger, but as someone with questions, and for the first time in her life, Talira wanted to understand a human. He knew her species feared humans, so he did the one thing. They never expected. The fire crackled quietly between them. Talira sat on one side, legs crossed, hands resting on her knees. Evan sat on the other, poking the flames with a stick. No guards, no weapons raised, just silence and questions hanging in the air. She had never been this close to a human before, not without armor between them, not without fear in her chest, and yet, she didn't feel fear now, only curiosity. Finally, Talira spoke. "You know what we think of your kind." Evan nodded. "I've read the reports. Some of your people think we're monsters." She tilted her head. "Do you blame them?" He didn't answer right away. Then quietly he said, "No. I've seen what some humans have done. I wouldn't trust us either." That surprised her. Most species defended their own. But Evan didn't lie, didn't excuse. "Then why are you here?" she asked. "Because not all of us are like that," he said. "And someone has to prove it." She studied his face. He looked tired, yes, but not broken. His eyes didn't shift or hide. He was open, and that made her feel something strange. Safe. The next day, she returned. Evan was tending to the injured Urnai soldiers again, cleaning wounds, feeding them water. She helped him this time, quietly, carefully, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Later, as the sun set, she noticed something. His weapon, an advanced pulse rifle, was lying beside his pack. He hadn't touched it once since she arrived, and then he did something no one had ever done before. He picked it up and placed it in her hands. Talira stared at him, confused, alarmed. "You're giving this to me?" He nodded. "If you think I'm a threat, do what you need to." She held the weapon in both hands. It was heavy, powerful. She could end him right there. He didn't flinch, didn't move, just looked her in the eyes and said, "I won't hurt you. That's all I can promise." Slowly she lowered the weapon and placed it back beside the pack, then sat down again, without a word, because that one act, handing her the weapon, told her everything she needed to know. He didn't want to control her. He wanted her to choose, and she had. That night they didn't speak much. They just sat together, watching the stars through the jungle canopy. But something had changed. A wall had fallen, and in its place was trust. The kind that doesn't come from words, but from action. She got hurt, protecting him, and he carried her through the fire. The jungle was not quiet tonight. The wind screamed through the trees. Animals ran in fear. Smoke floated between the branches like ghosts, and something big was coming. Evan and Talera were checking the camp's perimeter when they heard it, a deep, angry roar from beyond the ridge. Evan raised his binoculars. Talera's eyes narrowed. "It's not a normal beast," she whispered. "No," Evan said. "It's hunting, and it's fast." They moved quickly, warning the two injured Urnai soldiers still resting near the shipwreck. Talera picked up a blade. Evan grabbed a flare launcher. They weren't planning to fight. They were planning to survive. But the jungle had its own plans. The beast appeared without warning, 10 feet tall, claws like knives, and covered in burned, red skin. A fireback predator, one of the most dangerous creatures on Ningzari. It had followed the human scent, and now it had found him. Evan raised the launcher, but the beast charged too fast. Talera moved first. She shoved Evan out of the way, slashing at the creature with her blade. The claws struck her leg before she landed in the dirt. Blood spilled fast. She didn't scream, but she couldn't stand either. Evan didn't think. He aimed, fired the flare into the air, then ran to her side. "Talera!" she gasped, gripping her leg. "You need to run. Not leaving you. You'll die." "Then we die together." The fireback roared again, circling. Evan looked up and saw the thick vines above. He reached for his emergency torch and lit it, held it toward the vines. They ignited fast, flames roaring across the Oyor tree line. The beast growled and backed away. It hated fire, but now the flames were spreading too fast. The jungle was burning. Evan lifted Talera onto his back. She gritted her teeth in pain. "Put me down." Not a chance, with fire on both sides and the beast howling behind them. Evan ran. Branches cracked, ash fell like snow. Talera held on tight, weak but awake. She had saved him. Now, he was saving her. They didn't stop until they reached a riverbank. Evan dropped into the water, cooling her wound. She winced but didn't cry. He tore his sleeve, wrapped her leg, and held her head above water. "You're going to be okay," he whispered. Talera looked at him, blinking slowly. "You carried me through fire." He smiled gently. "Of course I did." The flames burned behind them, lighting up the night sky. But they were safe. Together, alive. Talera reached up and touched his shoulder. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For staying." And in that moment, something deeper was born. Between them, not just trust, but devotion. The kind that doesn't come from duty. It comes from the choice to carry someone through the flames, no matter what it costs. She asked why the predator trusted him, and his answer shook her. The next morning, the sky over the jungle was gray. Ash from the night fire still floated gently in the air like snow that had forgotten to melt. Talera sat near the river, her injured leg resting on a smooth rock. Evan had cleaned the wound again and wrapped it with soft cloth torn from his shirt. He didn't complain. He never did. She watched him now, crouched by the water, filling a container and checking the jungle edge every few minutes. Always alert. Always calm. Not once had he asked for anything in return, and yet he had saved her life. Again. She took a breath, then asked the question that had been burning inside her for days. Evan, the predator, the one with the cubs, Why did it let you get so close? He paused, didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over and sat beside her, quietly, like her question deserved time. Then he spoke. When I was a child on Earth, he said, my village was near the forest. There was a creature there. Big, dangerous like your apex beasts. One day I found it wounded. Everyone said to kill it. I gave it water. Talira frowned. Why? Because I saw pain, not rage. I saw it trying to protect something. He looked at her. That's the thing about real predators. They don't kill for fun, they kill to protect. When I approached that nest, I made sure I didn't carry fear. No weapon, no hate, just care. Talira stared at him. And it trusted you? No, he said. It didn't attack me. That's not the same. She fell silent, thinking about his words. He continued. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is show you're not a threat. That you're willing to listen, that you'd rather help than harm. He glanced at her leg. You did the same for me last night. Talira's throat tightened. All her life she was told humans were wild, violent, greedy. But Evan's strength didn't come from power. It came from restraint, from understanding, from heart. I don't understand you, she said softly. He smiled. That makes two of us. Later that day, she asked for his help to stand. They walked slowly, side by side, along the riverbank, not as enemies, not even as strangers, but as two lives, starting to walk the same path. And for the first time in her life, Talira saw a human not as a danger, but as someone she could trust. Her people arrived to take her back and ordered her to kill the human. The morning mist rolled over the Yao jungle floor like a slow wave. Talira and Evan were finishing their simple meal, dried root fruit and water from the stream. Her leg was healing fast thanks to his care. She was learning to smile again, but peace doesn't last long in the wild. The sound came first, a low humming in the sky. Then a beam of light cut through the trees. A Urnai scout ship, her people, had found her. Evan stood slowly. Talira's chest tightened. They're here, she whispered. He didn't reach for his weapon. He only asked, will they be glad to see you? She didn't answer, because she didn't know. The ship landed fast, and a squad of armored Urnai warriors stepped out. Cold eyes, sharp blades, and no sign of kindness. At their front was Commander Vectol, tall, powerful, and known for never showing mercy. He walked up to Talira and looked her up and down. You're alive, he said flatly. Talira nodded. I am. He looked past her, to Evan, then back at her. Why is a human still breathing beside you? Talira stepped, slightly in front of Evan. He saved me, more than once. He is the enemy, Vectol growled. We found his species hunting near our nesting zones. He wasn't hunting, she said. He was helping. The commander narrowed his eyes. We gave you orders, no contact with humans, and now, you've let one touch your thoughts. Talira stood firm. I made my own choice. He didn't like that. You were once a proud scout of the Urnai, he said. Now you walk with the same species that took our forests. Do you know what that makes you? She looked him in the eye. Stronger. The commander raised his voice. You will prove your loyalty. Kill the human. Now, Evan didn't move. He stood behind her, silent, calm. As if he had expected this, Talira's hand hovered over her blade. Her people waited. The jungle went quiet. Then she turned, looked at Evan, and then stepped beside him. No, she said. I won't. Gasps spread through the Urnai ranks. Vectol's face twisted in anger. Then you are banished. Talira took a deep breath. I was already lost before I met him, but with him, I found something better than orders. She placed her hand on Evan's arm. I found truth. The commander gave a signal. His squad stepped back. They didn't attack. They didn't speak. Because deep inside, some of them understood. The ship lifted off without her. and she stood in the rising wind, watching her people leave. But she didn't cry, because this time, she had chosen her own path. Evan turned to her. "You didn't have to stay." She looked at him. "I know," he asked softly. "Was it worth it?" She smiled. Tired, but sure. It always was. Once a stranger, now her guardian, the human who changed her world. The jungle was quiet again. No engines in the sky, no boots in the dirt, just the hum of life, and two souls standing side by side beneath the trees. Talara and Evan had no home now. Not in the human world, not in the Urnai tribe, but they had something better. They had each other. They made camp by the river, where the trees bent just enough to let starlight through. Evan fixed the solar filter. Talara built a roof from wide leaves and tied it with jungle cord. No orders, no rank, just quiet teamwork, like they had done it for years. At night, they sat near the fire. Evan watched the flames. Talara watched the stars. She asked softly, "What will we do now?" He looked at her with calm eyes. "We protect this place." She nodded, and each other. Over time, animals began to return. The wounded predator from before came near their camp once with its young. It sniffed the air, then turned and left. It knew them, trusted them. A new ship came weeks later. Not for war, not for capture. A peaceful explorer vessel, curious about the strange reports of a Urnai scout and a human living together in the wild. They asked questions, took photos. Talara didn't answer many, but when a small girl from the crew smiled at her without fear, she smiled back. Evan stood beside her when they asked, "Who is he to you?" She answered without thinking, "He's not my guard. He's not my owner. He's not my enemy." She placed her hand on Evan's chest and said, "He is my guardian, and I am his." The crew left in peace and word spread. Some called it strange, some called it impossible, but slowly, the idea of peace grew. A bond between two worlds, started by one man and one woman who didn't listen to fear, only to their hearts. And in the jungle of Nexari, if you walk quietly and listen closely, you may still hear the sound of a fire, crackling, and laughter carried by the wind. From a place where once there was only fear, now lives hope.